Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach, and for today's video, I'm going to quickly look at how we come up with our CHIPPI ratings for games. As you can see here, CHIPPI stands for Core Game Mechanics, History, Investment, Presentation, Preference, and It Factor. Each of these categories has a certain weight to it that goes into the final rating of the game. So as you can see here, the core game mechanics account for about 20% of the weight, history for 10%, investment for 20, presentation for 20, preference for 25, and it factor for 5%. For core game mechanics, we're just looking at how we think the mechanisms in the game, like deck building or card drafting or tile placement, kind of how they compare to other games we've played and if they're anything special. So if I think that that is kind of an 8 rating for Calico, I would put an 8 in. For history, we're just looking at the play count up to 10 plays. So at most, you'd have a 10 in here. So if I've played Calico 7 times so far, I'd give it a 7. So that'll just go up with plays, regardless of whether or not you really enjoy the game. But typically, if you're playing it 10 times, you probably are liking the game. Then we look at investment, which isn't actually financial investment, but more of an investment in your time and effort to play. So like the amount of time it takes to set up the game and take down the game and put it back in the box. And also the time to play along with the replay value. Kind of if the amount of time you're playing, if you always feel like you're getting new decisions and the last 20 minutes of the game doesn't feel like we're just doing the same thing that I've been doing for the last half hour to an hour. So if you kind of feel like that's sort of changing as the game goes on and getting more and more interesting, then you can rate that a little higher. Or if it feels like, oh, this game's 20 minutes too long, then it'll be a little lower. So then you pop in a score for kind of where you think that is. And then we look at presentation. So for this, we're looking at kind of the box cover, kind of the art, if you like that, the artwork in the entire game, the components within the game, kind of if the card quality, if the game has cards, the card quality is great, if the tiles are nice, just kind of a combination of all that. And this one's more, it can change from person to person. Some people are going to like some art that others aren't going to, whereas there's going to be some art that everyone loves or everyone hates. So then you'll enter in a score from 1 to 10 in that as well. In preference, it's weighted pretty heavily, but this just comes down to kind of what game you're going to choose off the shelf. Are you going to come back to this game and always be, when people are asking, oh, what game do you want to play? Are you always going to be going to this game? Or is it one that, someone else is going to have to suggest it to you to get you to actually get it off the shelf and play the game? So this is going to kind of come down to, deep down, what's your favorite game and what games do you like the most? So then you'll enter in a number there. And then lastly, there's the it factor, which sometimes you feel like some of these other categories may be a little lower than you really want a game to be, because there might be a game that has kind of a nostalgic feel to you, whether or not the game is really an amazing game or not, or has, older artwork or component quality. And kind of, there might be a game that just, either gives you nostalgia, or it might be a theme that you just really enjoy that maybe no other game you have or know of has. You might just give it that little extra bump of, a 10 if you really, really enjoy something like that about the game or not, or if, the game's just average, nothing amazing that just makes it pop for you, nothing additional that makes it pop, it'll be a little lower. So you'll enter that in and you will get a overall score. So right now, if this were what I entered in for Calico, it would get an overall score of 7.6, whereas with my, maybe additional plays down the road, I'll be updating the, amount of times I played, and I can go back and look and see, maybe later on I feel like, actually the core mechanics are more interesting than I originally had thought, so maybe I have to increase the score, or maybe I have to decrease the score. It's not as interesting or new as I thought it once was. But if you have any further questions about how we come up with our Chippy rating, or if you think that, one of these categories is weighted too high or too low, please let us know in the comments below. Otherwise, have a great day and keep on nibbling.